have not been particularly forthcoming with information, I think it's fair to say. And so they're just casting a light. And it's worth pointing out there's also questions about what Tory MPs have received in donations.
Oh yeah, it definitely goes cross-party,
exactly.
doesn't it? It definitely goes cross-party. More transparency. More transparency thanks to this database. It does provide a bit more information, but I suppose what it will do is help people who want to dig a little deeper. And that, of course, is always important, where this money comes from. We are out of time. Katie Balls, Caroline Madarasi-Tirani, thank you so much for your company this evening. We will, of course, be back same time tomorrow. Do join us for that. Good night.
I'm Trevelyan in Washington, and this is BBC World News America. Police in Brazil retake buildings stormed by supporters of Jair Bolsonaro. 1,500 people have been arrested after the attack on Brazil's government by those claiming the presidential election was stolen. President Lula promises swift punishment.
All those people who did this will be found and punished. They will realise that democracy guarantees the right to freedom and free speech.
The leaders of the US, Canada and Mexico are holding a summit. They've condemned what they call an attack on Brazil's democracy. After his epic battle to become Speaker, Kevin McCarthy's first test comes with a vote on House rules. And once again, he's racing to line up support. And as Prince Harry's media blitz intensifies, now he's calling Queen Consort Camilla the third person in his parents' marriage, echoing his late mother, Diana. Welcome to World News America on PBS and around the globe. We begin tonight in Brazil, where officials say 1,500 people have been arrested after the storming of Congress on Sunday. In scenes all too reminiscent of what happened here in Washington 2 years ago, supporters of former President Bolsonaro overran government offices, protesting against what they falsely claimed was a stolen election. President Lula da Silva is back at work in the presidential palace, which was also ransacked. Separately, former President Jair Bolsonaro is in hospital with abdominal pain, according to his wife. Reports say he's in Florida. Our Brazil correspondent Katie Watson now reports. Well, the leaders of the US, Canada and Mexico are holding a summit in Mexico City, and in a joint statement, they condemned what they called the attacks on Brazil's democracy, saying they stood with Brazil as it safeguarded its institutions. Let's go now to Mexico City and get the latest from our correspondent there, Will Grant. So, Will, to what extent is this absolute chaos in Brazil overshadowing this summit of the three leaders? Will Grant in Mexico City, thank you very much indeed. Well, let's go back now to that unfolding situation in Brazil. And we can talk now to our correspondent, Nomia Iqbal. She is in Brasilia for us now. And of course, what happened there yesterday was that supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro stormed the Brazilian Congress. And I think we can go live now to Nomia. Nomia, Brazil's President Lula da Silva has vowed swift action. What's the latest on the number of people who've been arrested? Nomia Iqbal there in Brasilia with apologies for the freezing of her line. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, for more on those comparisons between Brazil and the United States on January the 6th, and also the situation on the US-Mexico border that we were talking about with Will Grant, I'm joined now by Will Hurd, former Republican congressman from Texas, who did represent that border region. But first of all, Mr. Hurd, thanks for joining us. When you see those scenes in Brazil, does it look so eerily reminiscent to you of what happened here in Washington on January the 6th, 2021? Once again, supporters of a president claiming an election falsely has been stolen. Will Hurd, thank you so much for joining us. Well, as we were just discussing there with Will Hurd, after the drama last week over the election of a new Speaker to the House of Representatives, today is the first test for Speaker Kevin McCarthy and his Republican caucus. They're voting on the rules that will govern the chamber for the next 2 years, which might sound very technical, but is actually crucial to how government works. Well, with the latest, let's join our North America correspondent, Anthony Zerka. He's been following all of the developments. Anthony, is it possible that Kevin McCarthy now sees a rebellion by moderate Republicans who feel that he ceded too much power to his right flank? Anthony Zerka, thank you so much for joining us there with the latest on the brand new Congress. Well, Buckingham Palace is still saying nothing following the latest allegations by Prince Harry, who has done multiple broadcast interviews to promote his new book. Speaking on ABC, the Duke of Sussex said his mother, Princess Diana, would be upset about the state of his relationship with his brother, Prince William. He's also accused Camilla, the Queen Consort, of using the press to promote her own image at the expense of his and Meghan's. Here's our Wrld correspondent, Nicholas Witchell. In non-Harry-related news, Pakistan has received pledges of more than $9 billion at an international conference to help the country recover from last year's devastating floods. That's $1 billion more than Islamabad asked for. The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said the money would help Pakistan recover from what he called a climate disaster of monumental scale. California is bracing for more severe weather this week, with forecasters warning there will be a relentless parade of cyclones. The state has already suffered a week of torrential downpours and strong winds, leaving 12 people dead. The most brutal weather is due in the next 24 hours. Ukraine is described as propaganda. Russian claims that its missiles killed more than 600 Ukrainian soldiers. Moscow claimed the forces were killed in a missile strike on the eastern city of Kramatorsk. Footage at the scene shows a large crater but does not suggest mass casualties. The Dutch National Archives has released a map reportedly showing where Nazi soldiers hid jewellery and precious stones at the end of the Second World War. Treasure hunters, historians and fortune hunters have descended on a village in the Netherlands looking to unearth the buried treasures. For the first time since the pandemic began in 2020, people travelling to China don't need to quarantine on arrival. But as the rules are eased, the virus is spreading and Chinese travellers are now being met with border controls in other countries. The toughest restrictions are in neighbouring South Korea. Nick Marsh reports from Seoul. And before we go tonight, some good news. The American football player Damar Hamlin continues on his road to recovery. He's been released from intensive care and transferred to a facility in Buffalo, New York, 1 week after his heart stopped and he had to be resuscitated. Doctors say that Hamlin has made a remarkable recovery. On Sunday, he watched his teammates win against the New England Patriots. Players across the NFL have honoured him by wearing his number 3 jersey. I'm Laura Trevelyan. Thanks for watching World News America.
Hello there. The mild and wet and windy theme continues for many northwestern parts of Europe.